The Minister of Water and Sanitation, Senzo Mchunu, just gave an update on the state of water and sanitation to mark 1 year since he took over the portfolio. Upon his appointment, Mchunu visited all the provinces to unlock challenges that hinder water provision, particularly the delays in infrastructure projects. He has, amongst other things, prioritized the Giyani Water Project and the Nelson Mandela Bay drought relief measures.
The context in which we have been working and are still working in the past year, one is the context of incomplete projects that we found on the way, which had not been completed, some for a long time, some for a shorter time. But there were quite a plethora of projects that had started at some point or the other, but had not been completed. Some had been abandoned, and some, of course, were just slowly moving on, but some were ordinarily on course. That's the first context. The second context is the problem of incapacity, which we will elaborate on a little bit in terms of how we're addressing it. And I must say here today that this issue of capacity, right from head office where we sit, it reflects on a number of issues or on a number of occurrences. You start a project and then an error comes in and then it gets delayed because somebody has done or has made an error of one kind or the other somewhere down the line. And then it takes a while before that error gets detected, and then it gets detected and it gets addressed. By that time, you have lost 2 months or 3 months in some cases 6 months. So that clearly shows that there is a little bit of a capacity issue. Issues of procurement, they take a little while, in some cases more than they should be taking. And in some cases, it just takes a while to weigh up things and decide how this is going to be done. And it has made us realize that as ministry, we are called upon not to sit in high chairs, but get down to dirty work. And when I say dirty work, I don't mean dirty, but I mean working very closely with officials where you would have thought that you just sit up there and you receive reports only. It's not the case. You've got to sit quite closely, monitor quite closely, advise quite closely in order for you to see progress. If you don't do that, by the time you realize that there's no progress, 7 months is gone. And we do have examples where we really have had to almost start afresh and guide. And that's the case, that issues of capacity that are taken for granted are real. They are not for granted. They are not to be taken for granted. They have to be. We have to be realistic about it and admit that it's a matter that needs to be addressed on an ongoing basis. It goes with refinement. If you take a look at the gap between when you decide on a project and actual implementation, it takes a while, and I think department has also even almost accepted that when you start a project, you don't rush. It will happen 2 years, 3 years down the line, and that is something that is sitting very uncomfortably within us, and we intend cutting it. But it is there. But below us in boards, there's also that issue of incapacity, which needs to be addressed on an ongoing basis. But water service authorities themselves, during our summit on the 18th and 19th of February this year, there was an outcry throughout the country by water services authorities that we don't have capacity let the summit, let the department take a lead in finding ways and means of making up for this incapacity, because if it's allowed like that, to go on like that, it means that there's very little that is going to be delivered.